For our first project today, I'm using this 9 by 12 inch wood plaque that I picked up at the Dollar Tree for just $3. I have Fusion's mineral paint in the color raw silk, and I'm just going to give this one coat. We're going to be decoupaging next, and this is going to give us a nice background that will really make our color pop. And I have this beautiful paper that I got in my Sonnets Makers box this month. She always sends the prettiest papers, and I just fell in love with this beautiful yellow stripe design, and it has a nice vintage look. Now I cut it to fit my plaque. I have Catch's Gilding Glue by Redesign and my fan brush, and I'm gonna just spritz some water and work on one section at a time, really just stretching those fibers, getting rid of any bubbles or wrinkles. And the water mister really does help stretch those fibers. And, another thing is that this glue is a little on the thicker side. So the water really does just help with the thinning out of the glue and just makes it a little easier. This glue was originally made and created by Ketcha. She uses a lot of gold leaf on her furniture, so it was primarily designed for gilding, but it can actually, be used for decoupage, which is, what I'm using it for here. We're making some artwork today, and I just love what artwork can do for a home. To me, it's just such a big part of creating that cozy feeling. It adds warmth and personality and little touches that make a space feel like you. I think sometimes it's the artwork and the little things we surround ourselves with that really make home feel like home. Now, you could absolutely use another medium for this, like Mod Podge or liquid patina. Just use whatever you have on hand. I've been told that you can use school glue for decoupaging if you water it down a little bit, kind of like what I'm doing here with my water mister. I haven't tried that, so I can't tell you how it works, but I thought I'd just pass it along just in case you want to give it a try. And if you have, let me know. I let this dry for several hours. I have my finger sander to remove the excess paper. Now, if you noticed, I did leave the sides of the plaque unfinished. We're going to do something a little different with those later. Now, I have my Autumn Cottage mold from IOD, and this is from their 2025 fall, maybe winter release. I can't remember. And I'm dusting it with a little bit of cornstarch. I'm using Jovi air dry clay, and I'm really working it in my hands first to warm it up and make it a little more pliable. Then I'm using my clay roller to flatten it out and help me press it into the mold. In my last video, I mentioned that a few subscribers recommended this clay. So I ended up buying a 4-pack on Amazon because it was a way better deal. Now, I have to be honest with you guys, I am not a fan of this clay. It's pretty difficult to work with. It takes a very long time to dry, and I've had quite a bit of trouble with the cracking, whether I'm painting my castings before they completely dry or, wait until they are. So I just like to mention we all have our likes and dislikes when it comes to products. So this is just one. It just isn't a favorite of mine. But I wanted to give you guys an honest opinion since I've been working with it, and I'll continue working with it because I can't let it go to waste. And if you're new, I really enjoy working with Das air dry clay. I get minimal cracking, and it's also it's a more of a wet clay, so it's just so much easier to work with. But now I have my castings. I am using my Type Bond Quick and Thick, and that's a multi-surface glue, wood glue, and it works so good for clay. So I'm putting it all over the back with my finger. Just don't put too much, because if you do, once you set your casting down, it will just seep out the sides and just make a huge mess. But I'm getting my pumpkin positioned first, and then this pretty embellishment I'm going to put underneath it and just kind of overlap it just a little bit. And I also wanted to say that working with clay has always been something that brings me a lot of peace and relaxation. But I have to say, working with this particular clay actually made me anxious. I really didn't like that feeling at all, but who does? When I'm creating, I want the process to be relaxing and enjoyable, and this one just wasn't giving it to me. Now I have my blooming banners mold, and I'm casting this lovely banner at the top here. Again, working my clay into the mold, flexing it, and rolling it back to release my casting. Adding my wood glue, and then I'll place that at the top. In hindsight, I wished I would have placed it down a little bit. However, that's just not how it worked out. Now I'm using IOD's typesetting stamp here, and I originally wanted to stamp the word home at the top, but I wanted to add a little French influence because I really love French inspired decor. So I decided to use the word maison, which is home for French. I just thought it was a pretty little detail, and honestly, I love the idea of celebrating the home. Our homes are such a big part of our lives, and they're where we make our memories. We relax and we surround ourselves with all the things that we love, as I mentioned. And I think when you create a cozy home that you're proud of, it really does give you a special feeling. I let my castings dry for several hours before painting them, just so they're a little more dry. And I have my fan brush. I've just really been enjoying painting with these. And I'm going to give them just one coat of Paint Couture's Buttercream Chalk Paint. And next I have IOD's The Bramblewood Diaries from their winter release. This transfer book is perfect for journaling and creating your own calendars and just all kinds of things. But for this one, I'm choosing a couple of the florals and I'm going to position them on each side. I'm placing the transfer down, as you can see here, rubbing and slowly pulling back on the transfer vellum. Once it's transferred, though, instead of rubbing the, geez, I can't get it out, rubbing the vellum over the top, I'm just going to set the vellum back down and then rub over the top with my finger, as you saw me doing. And I repeat the same thing on either side. And I noticed I had them a little offset and it was still a little bit too plain. So I cut out two more pieces. These ones are a different color, but I think this was the perfect match. Placed them along the top, repeated those same steps. And you can see there's a bit of overhang on each side. I trimmed that and was able to use that remaining leaf at the top here, and that covered the stem. So you wouldn't even know that, there's really an end to it. It just looks like it seamlessly like drapes down. And I didn't have one for the other side, so I just cut the tip off another leaf and repeated the same step. And I really like how that looked. I think it made it look so much better. And I have my stamps here. I'm trying to remember what the Consonor's Library. I'm probably saying it so wrong, but that's okay. And I'm taking the number, I think it's 1748, and my stone gray ink. And you saw how I did that there. Sorry, I'm just kind of going fast on this. And now I have the color Bellwood by Fusion, and I'm painting all around the sides of our plaque. Now I'm going to go over it again with some more of Paint Couture's flat top coat. And right here, I completely forgot to go over my castings, but that's okay. I remedy it. There we go. Gosh, I promise I have words here. Sometimes it's just so hard for me to get the words out. Now I have Paint Couture's Amber Honey Glaze. And like I said, I typically go over my castings because it just helps pull back on that glaze. However, I have Paint Couture's new top coat spray, and that's what I used. I have it both in flat and satin, and because I used flat earlier, I used flat in the spray, and that really helped move that glaze around and help me pull it back with my baby wipe. And I just went over all the castings in the same way. And then I'll also bring it around the sides. And here it is. I think the project came out absolutely beautiful. It's so cozy and perfect for the fall season. What do you think of this vintage French inspired plaque? I'd love to know what you think. All right, this video is part of an open playlist hosted by Katie from Lady Red Crafting and Lisa from Our Grey House, and they asked me to be the guest host this month. Of course, I couldn't say no to these lovely ladies, so thank you so much, Katie and Lisa, for having me, and be sure to check out these lovely ladies and all the other creators in the playlist. They're all amazing. I'll have everything linked down below so you can follow along and see all the cozy projects everyone has created today. All right, for our next project, I have the color Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel, and I'm painting that frame that color. This is the backing of the frame, and I'm painting this one in the color Raw Silk. That's by Fusion. I get these little 1.2 ounce paints in my Sonnets Makers box, and I do get some from Tina at Rehatch Design sometimes, but a little bit goes so long. I mean, I've had that for months. In this month's box, I got this beautiful paper, and that's by Connie, the painted photographer. She sends an art piece in each month's box, actually two in each month's box. And I have Pentart's Decoupage Varnishing Gel. That's what we're going to use for our medium. I'm going to brush this, doing this in sections like we did earlier, brushing that on, and then setting our paper right into that medium. This one's quite thick too. However, out of all the mediums I have to say, like this one is my favorite for decoupaging. It's just, I can't really explain why. I just know it's my favorite. And so setting that paper right into that medium, and then I'll smooth it out with my hand. And then once it's on, I don't let it dry. I just go over it again with more of my decoupage varnishing glue. And as you can see, I'm going in a crosshatch motion, going all over the design. Now that my frame is dry, I'm using Sweet Pickins milk paint, and I believe this is Cheshire. And I'm using 2 tablespoons of water to 2 tablespoons of milk paint, but I like to mix 1 tablespoon at a time. I like my milk paint nice and thick, so I do pack my spoon rather tightly and let it sit about 10 minutes. And now we're going to apply a coat. I'm not looking for full coverage here. I am going to do 2 coats, but I don't mind that brown peeking through one bit. I'm using my embossing gun to speed up that drying process, and it does dry quickly and it gives us more crackle. And of course, that's what we love when it comes to vintage, old world charm. We love that crackle finish. And of course, if this is too grungy for you, you could totally use a different type of paint. They do have a product called Extra Bond, which you can mix in with your milk paint and you will get less crackle that way. So there's always that if you want to research it. And now that it's nice and dry, I have Sweet Pickins Dark Oil Wax. I'm right at the end of my mini bottle, so I just added some clear wax, shook it up. That way, I get every little bit because a lot of the dark, whatever they put in it, settles at the bottom. So you really got to make sure that you shake it really good. Um, so that's just a way to like make sure you use every drop. I have my sponge and I'm really just going over the whole thing, moving that oil around, getting it into all those cracks. I've started using a sponge more recently. I like how you can just squeeze it and remove the excess oil. That way, you're not just using the paper towel, it absorbing the oil and then throwing the paper towel away. And that's another thing. I keep all my oil and wax soap brushes, sponges, rags in a metal tin can with a lid because of the risk of spontaneous combustion. Anytime you're working with oils, waxes, or oil based products, it's really important to be mindful of how you dispose of and store anything that has those products on it. I keep mine contained in a metal tin rather than leaving them out just to be safe. So keep that in mind. Now I'm wiping it back. I also have my vintage antiquing paste that I apply with my finger just around the sides and then I really blend it out with my paper towel. You can pull back as much as you want. You can add a little bit more of that oil wax, which is why you see me going back and forth with the sponge and the rag, just so I can take away as much as I want. I added my artwork to the frame, and this is how it turned out. I think Connie's painting is just absolutely beautiful, and I love how it looks for fall. It's oh so cozy and has such a warm and inviting feel. What do you think? For our last project, I thrifted this little frame and I just love all the detail in it. I'm going to give it just one coat of Chateau by Fusion. And I'm also going to give the backing of the frame this color. All it needed was one coat. While that's drying, I have another one of Connie's beautiful artworks from this month's box. I'm using my water pen to go all around. I want to tear away the excess paper and get more of an organic edge. And if you don't have a water pen, go ahead and just use a small paintbrush. Then I'm going to place my artwork down, layering the frame over the top and checking exactly how much of that white is going to show around the edges. Now I'm going to decoupage this down using my gilding glue again. Now I'm going to go in with the color Cobblestone by Fusion. I thought this was going to be the perfect gray, but once it was on, it was just a little bit too light for what I had in mind. So I started stippling it all along the sides to cover up that white. And then I decided to bring in Waverly's mineral color chalk paint and did the same thing, stippling it right over the top. This color goes on a little darker, especially once it's dry. And I carried it over the paper as well itself just to help blend everything together and give it a more natural look. And then once it's dry, I use that Paint Couture top paint in flat and went over the entire piece. I'm going to go over my whole frame with Paint Couture's Amber Honey Glaze and my baby wipe and my water mister and just pull back the excess. And this is really going to bring out all the details in the frame and just really make all that definition pop. And this is how it turned out. I just love this one. Connie's prints are just oh so beautiful. I just love how these art pieces came out today, and I would love to know what you think. And thank you again, Katie and Lisa, for having me. I had so much fun being a part of this playlist. And just a little reminder, guys, the playlist will be linked in the description box, so be sure to check out and see what everyone created. As always, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Hype me up if you loved it. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss another video from me. Thank you for spending time with me today. Until the next one, bye.